Jodi, Jodi, Jodi. What an interesting person, to say the least. Jodi had one of the most known cases of the early 2010s, with just about every aspect of her case being shown to the public. But who really was Jodi Arias? What did she really do? Where is she now? These are some of the questions people are asking, and that is what this aims to answer. Jodi was a very charming and persuasive individual who was basically able to get whatever she wanted. She used her persuasiveness to get people to believe her lies and to get them to do almost anything. Her charm and persuasion was used to get a relationship with Travis Alexander. It is probably what kept her close to him even after they split. Jodi and Travis met at a work convention in the lively city of Las Vegas. I mean, what a city to meet and fall in love with someone. They don't really call it the marriage capital of the world for nothing, but what happened in Vegas should have stayed in Vegas for this case. She moved to Arizona from California to be closer to him. Jodi even became baptized as a Mormon for him only a few months into their relationship. You wouldn't just switch religious beliefs for someone unless you truly believe you're in it for life. Shortly into this relationship, Jodi was starting to reveal her true self. Friends of Travis would say Jodi would follow him to the bathroom and wait outside the door, eavesdrop on his conversations, and even forward his private emails with other people to herself. The saying is being blinded by love, and from the outside looking in, sees what's really happening. Travis was warned by his own friends that Jodi was completely obsessed with him, and even told him they were afraid they were going to find him chopped up in her freezer one day. The two would only date for about 5 months before having the relationship fall apart. Travis was suffering with guilt because he was having sex with Jodi even though his religion prohibited it. Once the relationship fell apart, they would continue to keep in contact with sending explicit texts to one another. Jodi had claimed the relationship ended because of physical and sexual abuse from Travis, but this is hard to believe with a man who felt guilty of having sex because of his religion. After splitting, Jodi moved back with her grandparents in California. A couple months after the split, Travis invited Jodi to come on a work retreat with him, but before the trip, he decided to take another woman with him. This was ultimately the last straw for Jodi. In late May of 2008, a burglary was reported by the grandparents of Jodi's. Among the objects missing was a .25 caliber handgun. On June 2nd, between 1 and 3 a.m., Jodi tried calling Travis 4 times, but there was no luck in reaching him. Within the hour, Travis called Jodi, and the call lasted over 18 minutes. A couple hours later, Jodi was renting a car and on her way to Salt Lake City. During her trip, she stopped in Southern California for a work conference and to see a friend, probably trying to get an alibi for what she's about to do. On the evening of June 4th, Travis was supposed to have an important business call, but ultimately missed it. June 5th came around, and Jodi went to more business meetings in Salt Lake City. She meets up with the same work friend she met a couple days ago, and he first notices she changed her hair from blonde to dark brown and had cuts on her hands. Jodi got back to Northern California on June 7th to return the rental car. The car had been driven 2,800 miles, had missing floor mats, and red stains on both sets of the seats. On June 9th, 2008, a couple of Travis's friends hadn't seen him in a while, so they started to get concerned. The group entered the master bedroom to find the worst thing someone could find. They saw massive puddles of blood in Travis's body in the shower. Instantly, they called the police. On the phone with the dispatcher asked if he had been suicidal or if someone was angry enough to hurt him. The friends instantly thought about Jodi, especially since Jodi had been hacking his Facebook and even slashing his tires while they were broken up. Travis was found with his throat cut from ear to ear and his head almost all the way off, stabbed about 29 times. There were also cuts on his hands as if he was trying to defend himself, along with a gunshot wound to the head. The scene looked like the one of a surprise attack, one that was full of rage, almost like someone was upset they weren't going on a work retreat with that person. When police arrived on the scene, they found blood all over the walls, floor, and sink. There was also a camera found in the washing machine as if someone was trying to destroy evidence. There was also brown hair and a bloody palm print found. There was a bullet round next to the body which matched the caliber of the gun that went missing from the grandparents of Jodi. The police were able to recover images on the broken camera. These images consisted of Jodi and Travis in sexually suggestive poses taken on June 4th, also the day he died. There were also pictures of Travis in the shower before the incident happened, along with pictures of Travis which appear to show him profusely bleeding on the floor. 1 month after Travis had been found, Jodi was indicted by a grand jury and arrested on first-degree murder charges. She pleaded not guilty, and during this time, she was giving many different stories of what happened. First, she stated she wasn't there at all, then stated there was a home invasion in which Travis was killed, and she was scared they would come back for her if she told the police. She finally admitted to killing Travis, but only in self-defense. She stated she lied about not being at the scene of the crime because she was planning to kill herself. This trial attracted national attention mainly with the pictures, videos, and texts which depict the couple's relationship. The trial was the first major trial where everyone was following it. The trial ended up evolving into a circus. Every single media outlet was at the trial because it was public. Talk shows were only talking about it. There were live, unedited footage of the testimonies, cable news networks, and there were even thousands of people lining up to have a chance to get one of the small number of public seats available in the courthouse just to watch the trial. This is the first time a trial of this scale had the ability to be viewed as the testimonies were going on. Public figures were even weighing in on the subject because it was all anyone could talk about. The Arizona governor even gave her opinion on the situation since the trial was happening in Arizona.
The crime involved substantial planning and preparation. The defendant did not render aid to the victim. The defendant destroyed evidence at the crime scene. The defendant went to great lengths to conceal her involvement in the crime. It is ordered the defendant shall be incarcerated in the Department of Corrections for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
Jodi was sentenced on first-degree murder charges and was given life in prison for the premeditated murder of Travis Alexander. In prison, you obviously have cellmates, and you have nothing to do but to talk with these cellmates. Her story to her cellmates would often change about what happened. She often claimed she was not alone when carrying out the crime and had a smile on her face when she committed the crime. The smiling when the crime was committed is very believable because during her first mugshot, she was seen smiling. The video of her interview was insane, to say the least. She was seen laughing, doing handstands, and worrying about not doing her makeup while the cop was not in the room. She is showing severe narcissistic signs. She was more worried about how she looked rather than trying to tell what happened or even trying to prove Travis was the person she said he was. She was trying to use her persuasiveness to get the police to believe her, even though she should have known there are cameras on her watching what she does. We have seen this type of behavior in many cases before where the offender would look up to the camera and try to play it off, as if they had a mental problem so they wouldn't get put in prison and could use the insanity plea. But back to her being in prison. Her story changed between being at Travis's house or not, or having an accomplice to help her. I feel like she tried to do this to keep people interested in her and gave her the attention she wanted. She was the one who was getting to do almost whatever she wanted to do in prison because of how she flirted with all the male guards who just loved the flirtatiousness of Jodi. One former cellmate named Donovan Baring believed Jodi's stories, so when she got out of prison herself, she wanted to do whatever she could to help get Jodi's story out there. Baring kept Jodi's social media active by posting what she wanted to be posted on there. At the time, Baring had no reason not to believe what she was saying. This feeling ultimately changed once Baring realized how she spoke to and about her parents. To paraphrase Baring, the way Jodi spoke to her mother by screaming and saying horrible things to her and wanting things to be posted on social media about her made her realize how much hate Jodi really had in herself. Jodi became more famous than she could have ever imagined after being convicted. She got her wish of wanting attention because even I'm doing something about her case. According to her, she hasn't received much hate in prison, but has instead received a lot of love. This is almost like when a lot of people want to romanticize serial killers while they're in prison. They believe they know that person, and some even go as far to believe they are in a relationship with that person. For example, Ted Bundy would receive many different letters and pictures of girls who were just in love with him after he had been convicted. These girls had no idea who he was, but just saw him and were convinced he could do nothing wrong. Jodi tried to get married while behind bars, and it wasn't even with an inmate. They would write letters back and forth. She thought once they got married, they would be able to get visitation rights because it is considered family members. They obviously never got married, and this was the last time we would hear about anything like this. Jodi would also start to sell her artwork on eBay before the trial, which was legal for her to do. In 2020, she filed a civil suit against her former lawyer for writing a book about what it was like to work for Jodi. In this book, Kirk Nermie talked about the abuse he constantly received from Jodi. Instead of taking this to court, he agreed to the disbarment because he wanted his life to move on from this. All in all, Jodi loved the attention she gained from the media, from everyone outside the trial, and from her even so-called fans. This has really helped her enjoy her time, which is extremely strange and twisted.